that single strand of pearls. Sitting in your mother's jewelry box right now, the one nobody has touched in 15 years because your daughter's already called it outdated and your son already called it worthless, may be the single most valuable object in the entire house. 8 pearl jewelry pieces that look exactly like the ones in your drawer have sold for hundreds, some for thousands, and one of them sold at auction for $60,000 after sitting in a shoebox for 30 years. Let us find out tonight if you are the one holding it. Here is the truth about pearls that nobody in the jewelry business has any particular interest in telling you. Pearls are the most misread jewelry in the American home. Full stop. More pearl necklaces have been donated, melted, tossed into estate sale boxes, and handed off to grandchildren as dress-up props than almost any other category of fine jewelry. And a meaningful number of those necklaces were worth real money, not antique store money, not grandmother sentiment money. Actual A dealer would have paid you 4 figures money. Here's how they ended up in your drawer in the first place. Between 1920 and 1970, pearls were not a luxury. They were a uniform. A respectable American woman wore a pearl necklace the way she wore a good coat. You had one. You wore it to church, to dinner, to your daughter's graduation, and eventually to your own portrait sitting. Mikimoto had already cracked the cultured pearl in 1906, and by the 1950s, cultured strands were arriving from Japan by the shipload. Department stores carried them. Sears carried them. Your grandmother did not buy a rarity. She bought the respectable thing to own, and she bought it at a perfectly ordinary price. And that is exactly why the valuable ones are invisible now. They do not look different from the ordinary ones. They never did. So tonight, I am going to slow you down in front of 8 pieces you have almost certainly seen, maybe own right now, and I am going to hand you the one physical test for each one that tells you in under 2 minutes whether you're holding $50 or $5,000. Not every piece in your drawer is a fortune. I will never insult you by pretending otherwise, but somewhere in this list is a piece that somebody in your family almost gave away, maybe already did. Let us make sure it is not the next one. And before we start, the 3 things that actually decide pearl value, because your whole family has this wrong. It is not the size. It is not how shiny they look. It is not whether they came in a velvet box. Value lives in 3 places every time. The origin of the pearl, natural, cultured, or imitation. The maker behind the setting or the clasp. And the condition of both the pearls and whatever holds them together. Get those 3 right on any piece tonight, and you will know more than 90% of the people at an estate sale table. Let us start at number 8, the single strand Akoya necklace. This is the one, the pearl necklace. The one so common in American estates that dealers see 3 before lunch on a good Saturday, and most of them get priced at $40 without a second look. A single strand of creamy white pearls, probably 16 inches, probably knotted between each bead, probably with a simple gold or gold-toned clasp. You know exactly what it looks like because you have seen it your whole life. Here's the honest part. Most of them are worth $40. I respect you too much to dress that up. The market is flooded with cultured Akoya strands from Japan, and a plain mid-grade strand in decent condition trades in the $50 to $150 range on a good day. The ordinary one is ordinary, but here is where the flaw falls out from under that assumption. Akoya pearls are graded on luster, surface quality, nacre thickness, matching, and size. And the spread between the bottom of that grading scale and the top is not small, it is enormous. A fine Hanadama grade Akoya strand, the highest classification in the Japanese pearl industry, with deep mirror luster and nacre over 0.4 millimeters thick in a size above 8 millimeters, has sold at auction for $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes more. And it looks to an untrained eye exactly like the $40 one. So here are your 3 tests tonight, and do all 3 before you decide. First, the tooth test. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but run the pearl gently along the edge of your front tooth. A real pearl, cultured or natural, feels faintly gritty, sandy. like the surface has texture at a microscopic level. A glass or plastic imitation feels smooth as a marble. Smooth means costume. Gritty means keep going. Second, the knot test. Look between each pearl. A properly strung fine strand has a hand-tied knot between every single bead. Those knots serve two purposes. They protect the pearls from rubbing each other, and they keep you from losing the whole necklace to the floor if the silk breaks. Knotting takes time and costs money, and nobody does it on a cheap strand. Knots between every pearl is your first signal that somebody spent real money on the stringing at minimum. Third, and this is the one most people never do, read the clasp. Turn it over and look for a hallmark. Gold clasps on quality strands are almost always stamped. 14 karat, 18 karat, 750. A stamped gold clasp on a knotted strand with pearls that feel gritty to the tooth is a piece worth having appraised before it goes anywhere. That combination does not show up on the $40 strand, the loss I see most often. A knotted strand with a 14 karat clasp gets donated because the pearls look yellowed. Yellowing on old pearls is surface oxidation, and a professional restringing with a light cleaning can bring them back. The strand people thought was too old to sell was the one worth saving. The button pearl brooch. Nobody wants a brooch. I hear this constantly. Your daughters do not want it. Your granddaughters definitely do not want it. And the dealer at the estate table is going to offer you $3 for it while keeping a perfectly straight face. A flat cluster of pearls on a pinback, usually set in silver-toned metal, usually with a few rhinestones in between. It looks like something that lived on a church cardigan for 40 years, because it probably did. Here's what the church cardigan never told you. In the 1930s and 40s, a Russian-born designer named Miriam Haskell was making costume jewelry in New York that was so unlike anything else on the market that Coco Chanel herself was photographed wearing it. Haskell used hand-sewn seed pearls, tiny glass beads, and Russian gold wire wound by hand on a backing of Russian gold filigree. Each piece took hours. Each piece was signed. And because Haskell died in 1981 and the original construction method was so labor-intensive that nobody has ever fully replicated it, every piece that survives is all there will ever be. A signed Miriam Haskell pearl brooch has sold on the secondary market anywhere from $200 at the low end up to $1,200 for a complex piece in exceptional condition. A full Haskell parure, the brooch plus matching earrings intact and signed, has pushed past $2,000. Here is your test. And this one requires a magnifying glass, or your phone camera zoomed all the way in. Turn the brooch over and look at the pin stem and the area immediately around the C-clasp or the roller clasp on the back. Haskell signatures appear in two forms depending on the era: an oval cartouche stamped with the words Miriam Haskell, or on earlier pieces, simply the word Haskell in a horseshoe-shaped frame. The mark is small. It is easy to miss. It is sometimes worn. But it is there on every authentic piece, and it is the difference between $3 and $300. One more thing to check while you have the brooch flipped over. Look at how the pearls are attached. Genuine Haskell pieces are hand-sewn, meaning you can see individual thread wraps holding each pearl. A molded or glued pearl cluster is not Haskell. Thread wraps and a cartouche mark. That is the combination that pays. The graduated pearl strand. You have seen this one in a portrait. Your grandmother is wearing it in the photograph on the wall, the one from her wedding or her 40th anniversary. A strand that starts with the smallest pearls at the back of the neck and swells to the largest pearl at the center front. Formal, classical. The kind of necklace that makes every modern buyer say it is too old-fashioned, and every serious collector say, I will take it. Here is why graduation matters, and it is not about style. Assembling a genuine graduated strand requires sourcing pearls across a continuous range of sizes, matching them in luster and color, and graduating them so smoothly that the eye reads it as one clean arc. This is skilled, time-consuming work. It was standard practice in fine pearl strands made before 1960. After that, the mass market moved toward uniform strands because they were easier and cheaper to produce at scale. A pre-1960 graduated Akoya strand in fine condition has sold at auction in the $400 to $1,800 range depending on size, luster, and clasp quality. A pre-1940 strand with a gold and diamond clasp has crossed $3,000. Now here's the detail most people walk right past. Turn the strand over and look for a small oval tag or stamp on the clasp that reads, "Made in Occupied Japan." This mark was required by United States law on all goods imported from Japan between 1945 and 1952, the years of the American occupation following the Second World War. A pearl strand bearing that exact mark is at minimum 70 years old and was made during one of the most tightly regulated import periods in American history. Occupied Japan pieces carry a collector premium on their own entirely separate from the pearl quality. Most people see that stamp and read it as foreign, old, probably cheap. Collectors see it and reach for their wallet. Read the clasp before you decide what you are holding. The pearl and diamond engagement ring. This is the ring your family has been quietly apologetic about for 30 years. Not a diamond solitaire, not a sapphire, a pearl, set in yellow gold or platinum, usually with small diamonds around it, often with a slightly domed or elongated silhouette that reads Victorian or Edwardian to a modern eye. Your granddaughter tried it on once, said it was cute in the way people say cute when they mean they would never wear it, and put it back. Here's what nobody said out loud in that moment. The pearl and diamond ring was the prestige engagement ring of the late Victorian and Edwardian periods, roughly 1880 to 1915. It was not the budget option. It was the fashionable choice among women of means because pearls at that time were still largely natural and a fine pearl was genuinely expensive, often more expensive per carat than a diamond of comparable quality. The cultured pearl did not reach commercial scale until the 1920s. A ring made before that window contains a pearl that was pulled from an oyster by a diver, not grown in a farm, and the difference in value between those two things is not small. Here is your test tonight. First, read the shank. Turn the ring over and look inside the band with a loupe or your phone camera. You are looking for a hallmark, 18 carat, 15 carat, which was a common British standard in the Victorian period, or the word platinum. Then look for a maker's mark, a small set of initials, or a cartouche inside the band. British rings from this period carry hallmarks that include the date of manufacture pressed right into the metal. If you see a small shield, an anchor, a lion, and a date letter, you have a British hallmarked ring, and those date letters are decoded in any free online British hallmark database in under 60 seconds. Second, once you have confirmed the metal and the era, the pearl itself needs to be evaluated. A natural pearl in a pre-1920 ring is almost certainly natural because cultured production simply was not there yet at commercial scale. A natural pearl of fine quality in an Edwardian diamond mount has sold at major auction houses for $4,000 to well over $20,000, depending on size and condition. The mistake I watch happen. The ring gets assessed by the diamond. The small diamonds around the edge are evaluated, declared modest, and the whole piece gets priced at scrap plus a little. The pearl is never tested. The pearl was the point of the whole ring. Do not let someone price the frame and forget the painting. The Freshwater pearl bracelet. The chunky one. The bracelet that looks almost too casual to be fine jewelry. A wide band of slightly irregular, non-matching pearls set in gold or strung on heavy silk. The kind of thing that reads as arts and crafts fair jewelry to a modern eye. Your mother wore it with everything and you never thought twice about it. Let me tell you what happened to the freshwater pearl market in 1980, because it changes what you are holding. Before 1980, American and European freshwater pearls, cultured in mussels in rivers and lakes, were produced in small quantities and set in quality gold findings because the production cost was high and the market treated them accordingly. Then China entered commercial freshwater pearl cultivation at industrial scale and the market flooded. By the mid-1980s, cheap Chinese freshwater pearls were everywhere, and they drove the perceived value of all freshwater pieces into the floor, including the good ones made 30 years earlier. So a bracelet made before 1960 with American or Japanese freshwater pearls, set with a substantial gold clasp, got swept under the same low-value assumption as the cheap Chinese strands that came after it. The market made a category error, and a lot of families made the same one. Here is your test. Look at the clasp first. A heavy, well-made gold box clasp or barrel clasp on a freshwater bracelet is your first signal. Read the hallmark on the clasp the same way you read the clasp on a necklace. Then look at the pearls themselves. Pre-1960, American freshwater pearls, called biwa pearls if Japanese, tend to have a distinctive elongated shape and a very high luster that the mass-produced Chinese pearls rarely match. A biwa pearl bracelet with a 14-karat gold clasp in fine condition has sold in the $300 to $900 range. Not a fortune, but not the $5 estate sale price it usually carries either. The box clasp is the tell. Nobody puts a heavy gold box clasp on a bracelet worth nothing. The Mikimoto strand. All right. Now we are getting somewhere, and I have to slow you all the way down here because this is the category where I have watched more money walk out the door than almost anywhere else, and I have also watched more people get their hopes up over a piece that turned out not to be what they thought. So we are going to do this carefully. Kokichi Mikimoto perfected the cultured pearl in 1906. After nearly 2 decades of obsessive experimentation, was awarded the Imperial Order of Merit by the Emperor of Japan, and built a brand that became synonymous worldwide with pearl quality. A genuine Mikimoto strand is a legitimately fine piece of jewelry. The pearls are graded to the company's own standards, which are high, and the clasps are made in the company's own workshops. A genuine Mikimoto strand with its original clasp in a size of 7 to 7.5 millimeters, with strong luster and minimal blemish, has sold at auction from $800 to $3,000. A larger strand, 8 millimeters and above, in fine condition with original box and pouch, has crossed $5,000. And here's the one I want you to sit with. In 2022, a double-strand Mikimoto with a diamond and platinum clasp sold at a regional auction house for $11,200. It had been sitting in a safe deposit box since 1968. Now, their authentication, because this is also the most faked strand in the pearl market, and I will not pretend otherwise. The Mikimoto mark appears in 3 places depending on the era of the piece. On the clasp itself, usually stamped or engraved on the back face of the clasp, you will see the word Mikimoto. On strands from the 1950s onward, there is often a small swing tag, a tiny oval paper or metal tag threaded onto the strand near the clasp, with the Mikimoto name and a serial or style number, and on original box pieces, the interior of the lid carries the name in gilt lettering. Here is the test that matters most. Read the clasp mark under magnification. The genuine Mikimoto stamp is clean, evenly spaced, and precise. The counterfeit marks tend to be slightly uneven with letters that crowd or drift. Then look at the clasp mechanism itself. Mikimoto clasps are substantial. They click with authority. A lightweight, hollow-feeling clasp with a vague mark is not Mikimoto. A solid, well-engineered clasp with a clear mark and pearls of consistent luster is exactly what it says it is. Do not donate this one. Do not put it in a box lot. If you have a strand with a mark and you're not certain, take it to a certified gemological appraiser, not a jeweler who buys gold, an appraiser with GIA credentials, before you let it out of your hands. I cannot say that plainly enough. One appraisal appointment stands between you and knowing the cultured pearl earrings with gold posts. Every jewelry box in America has a pair, a single cultured pearl, round, white, or cream, sitting on a small gold post, simple, classic, invisible, practically to the eye that has seen them 10,000 times. They are so common that they have become the furniture of fine jewelry, the thing you stop seeing because it is always there. And that familiarity is costing people real money. Here is where the value hides, and it is hiding in a place the size of a grain of rice. The post. The little gold pin that goes through your ear is the most information-dense part of the entire earring, and almost nobody reads it. A post on a quality pearl earring is stamped 18 carat, 14 carat, 750, 585. Those numbers are pressed into the metal on the flat disc at the back of the post, or on the post wire itself, and they require magnification to read, which is exactly why nobody reads them. Your phone camera on maximum zoom, held steady in good light, will show you what is there in about 30 seconds. Now here is where the size of the pearl enters the equation, because size in pearls is not vanity, it is scarcity. Akoya pearls above 8 millimeters are significantly harder to grow to round high luster completion than pearls below that size. The nacre has to build longer, the oyster has to survive longer, and the rejection rate goes up. A 9 millimeter round Akoya with strong luster on an 18 carat post is a fundamentally different object than the 6 millimeter pearl on a base metal post that lives next to it in the box. A pair of 9 to 9.5 millimeter round Akoya pearl earrings on 18 carat posts with strong luster and minimal surface blemish has sold at auction in the $400 to $1,200 range. A Baroque South Sea pearl on an 18 carat post, which sometimes turns up in estates from women who traveled extensively in the 1960s and 70s, has cleared $2,000 for a single pair. Your test tonight. Find every pearl earring in the box, every single pair. Zoom your phone camera into the post on each one and look for the hallmark. 14 or 18 carat post, plus a pearl above 8 millimeters, plus strong reflective luster equals a piece worth a professional look. And while you are there, check the backs. Original friction backs or screw backs on older posts sometimes carry their own small marks. I have found maker's marks on the butterfly back of an earring that change the entire valuation of the piece. The back of the back. Look there too. The natural pearl necklace. Nobody knew was natural. Here it is, the one I promised you at the beginning, the one that sold for $60,000 after living in a shoebox. And I want to walk you through this slowly, because this is the most important thing I will say tonight, and it is the thing the jewelry industry is least motivated to tell you. There is a difference between a natural pearl and a cultured pearl that no human eye can see. Read that sentence again. No human eye can see it. Not your eye. Not a jeweler's eye, not the eye of the woman behind the estate sale table who has been doing this for 20 years. A natural pearl and a cultured pearl are identical to visual inspection. They can have the same luster, the same round shape, the same creamy color. The only structural difference is inside the pearl, in the ratio of nacre to nucleus, and seeing that requires either an X-ray or a laboratory instrument called an endoscope, that no normal person owns and no estate sale table has. Here's what that means for the strand in your drawer. Any pearl necklace assembled before 1920, when cultured pearl production was not yet commercially established, has a meaningful probability of being natural. Any pearl necklace that came from a woman of genuine wealth before the Second World War has a meaningful probability of being natural. Any pearl necklace with a platinum or high-carat gold clasp set with diamonds or sapphires from the Edwardian or Art Deco period was almost certainly not strung with cultured pearls, because they largely did not exist yet in the commercial market when those clasps were being made. And a natural pearl necklace is not in the same conversation as a cultured pearl necklace. It is not 2 or 3 times more valuable. It is a different category of object entirely. A natural pearl necklace of modest quality sold at Christie's for $18,000. A fine natural pearl necklace with a diamond clasp in an estate auction cleared $62,000. A single natural pearl ring, one pearl, sold at Sotheby's Geneva for $800,000 because the pearl was 45 millimeters, which is extraordinary, but the principle holds across every size. Natural pearls are priced the way diamonds are priced, by origin, by size, by quality. Cultured pearls are priced by the market for cultured pearls. Those two markets are not on the same street. So here's the physical test that tells you whether your strand needs to go to a laboratory, and it is not the tooth test. The tooth test cannot tell you natural from cultured. It can only tell you real from glass. The test is the clasp and the era. If the clasp on your strand is platinum or high carat yellow gold, set with old mine-cut diamonds or rose-cut diamonds or calibre-cut sapphires or emeralds, and the overall construction feels pre-1930, that strand needs to be x-rayed before it goes anywhere. Full stop. Not appraised, not offered to a dealer. X-rayed. The GIA, the Gemological Institute of America, tests pearl origin. The SSEF in Basel, Switzerland, tests pearl origin. The Gubelin Gem Lab tests pearl origin. An origin report from any of these institutions costs between $150 and $500, depending on the strand length. That report is the difference between selling a necklace for $300 to someone who knows what they have and selling it for $60,000 to someone who was also willing to find out. I will tell you the honest part of this the way a real dealer would. The overwhelming majority of pearl strands in American estates are cultured. I will not inflate the odds for you, but the ones that are natural were not labeled. They were not announced. They were worn to dinner and put in the drawer and eventually handed to someone who had no idea what they were holding. That is the whole story of how a $60,000 necklace ends up in a shoebox. Nobody lied. Nobody hid it. Everyone just assumed. And assumption is the only thing standing between you and knowing. So here is where all 8 of them land. And notice what decided every single one tonight. Not the size of the pearls, not how shiny they looked sitting in the box, not whether they came with a velvet pouch or a certificate or anything else someone once told you mattered. Every piece tonight came down to the same 3 things: the origin of the pearl, the maker behind the clasp or the setting, and whether the piece is still complete and in honest condition. Those are learnable. You do not need a degree. You need a magnifying glass, 15 minutes, and the willingness to actually turn the piece over and read it. So before you donate a single strand, before you let your daughter use the brooch as a costume piece, before you accept the first number a buyer slides across the table at an estate sale, do the one thing every piece tonight was asking you to do. Turn it over. Read the clasp. Look at the post. Zoom your phone into the mark. And if the era and the construction are telling you it is old and fine and platinum and pre-1930, get it tested before anyone else gets the chance to do that math for you. The pearl necklace in your drawer is answering questions right now. The clasp knows its own age. The post knows its own carat. The nacre knows whether a diver found it or a farm grew it. You just have to be willing to ask. And one last thing, said plainly, the way I would say it to my own family. The pieces worth the most tonight were the plainest ones. The strand everyone ignored. The brooch nobody wanted. The ring the granddaughter called cute and put back. Plain is not worthless. In pearls, plain is sometimes the disguise that a fortune wears for 30 years while it waits for someone in the family to finally go look. If this made you want to open that jewelry box tonight, tap the like button. It tells me to keep making these for the women who are one turn clasp away from a very different number. Subscribe if you want to walk through the rest of the house this way, drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf. And tell me in the comments, what pearl jewelry did you inherit? And do you know where it came from? I read every single one. Every single one. Do not let anyone make you the first offer until you have made yourself the informed one.